And I know there's been lots of announcements around the benefits space recently, but if there is that shift from replacing the WCA with PIP and having work coaches take more of a role in deciding someone's conditionality and level of support, that's hugely concerning given the mental health knowledge gap that we do know really exists within work coaches.
We are already concerned about the long-term impact of putting more conditionality on people who are very, very unwell and are living with a progressive condition where they're not going to recover. People, by the time they reach that stage with MS, are they will have been living with the condition for a number of years, probably decades, and will have acquired quite a lot of nerve damage. There is nothing that's going to be done that's going to return them to kind of being able to work in the way that they previously were. All that will happen is they'll be made poorer and be placed under greater stress.
Yeah. Just to add, every time there are announcements like these, it causes incredible fear, panic, anxiety, and for many conditions, that can actually help to make the condition worse as well.
Can I just first ask what opinions are on the panel about universal support and Workwell?
What we would especially be concerned about is the fact that Workwell is being used to trial some of those more concerning points that have come under the Back to Work programme. So, for example, the reform of the Fit Note being trialled through Workwell is especially concerning for us. We don't believe that you can go from having mental health or clinical professionals deciding whether someone is fit for work or not to non-clinical members of staff having that say. And overarchingly, they come under this Back to Work plan that on the one hand provides support and personalised assistance into work, and on the other very much bangs the drum of sanctions and withdrawing any assistance from people. So I think so long as you are trying to dress support up in more punitive measures, there's a very big contradiction there, which we're really, really concerned about, given the known mental health and financial impact of sanctions.
To echo what Becca was saying, is there's a lack of trust, I think, amongst a lot of disabled people about what's actually underpinning both those programmes. The perception amongst people with MS at the moment is very punitive. So the changes to the work capability assessment being followed by a green paper on PIP, which have some very damaging proposals in them, things that are causing, we've had people calling us saying that they're literally sick with fear about what's being proposed. I think the problem is there's a narrative around being quite hard on people who are out of work, tackling out of work benefit bills, of which PIP is not an out of work benefit. It needs to be said. There's huge numbers of people that would be effectively collateral damage in these proposals, and it does nothing to actually address any of the issues that Becca's already identified around increase in people who are out of work or struggling at work due to mental health conditions.
Any other thoughts about making sure the commitments to support disabled people in work are actually being delivered before further cuts are made?
I think that's really important. I mean, sanctions don't work. Most people with long-term conditions want to work. They're keen to get back to work or stay in work. And I think some of the language and terminology has been really damaging. People with Crohn's and colitis report to us regularly that they get abuse from members of the public for using disabled toilets. And I think it just helps to foster this sort of sense that people with disabilities or long-term conditions are making it up, and that they're not suffering conditions that are having severe impact on their life. So I think all the talk of sanctions has been hugely damaging. People call our helpline. As soon as there's an announcement, we get a spike in calls, people feeling suicidal, people who've managed to get support feeling they're going to lose it, and people who've been trying to get support feeling that there is literally no hope for them.
You are telling them that legislation to deliver on this has not yet appeared, and there is very little time to get that through, despite the lack of an agenda from government at the moment.
Yeah, so we've made the point to the Secretary of State that that is true, but a disabled person who is hearing about this in the press doesn't necessarily know the difference between a green paper and legislation or what's actually going to happen next week.